Okay, let's talk about factoring trinomials using the grouping method. All right, so we have 2n squared plus 5n minus 3. First thing you want to look for is greatest common factor. The biggest number all three numbers can be divided by. So 2, 5, negative 3. The biggest number they can all be divided by is 1. My greatest common factor is 1. If it's 1, sweet, we go right into the next step. Okay, this is where we're going to create that product sum puzzle so that we can see how do we split it apart. So remember, we do 2 times negative 3 is the product, and then the middle term is our sum, right? So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 6 but also add to 5. Okay, so if I do 6 and 1, that's 6, but I need negative 6 and I need positive 5. So if I make that 1 negative, 6 times negative 1 equals negative 6. 6 plus negative 1 equals 5. That works. So we're going to split the middle 5n into 6n and negative 1n. Okay, so that's our first thing. So I'm going to have 2n squared, and now I split the 5n into plus 6n minus 1n and keep the negative 3 on the end. Okay, I could switch the order. I could have done minus 1n plus 6n. Either way, we should get to the same place. Okay, at this point, I'm going to look at the first two, and I'm going to look at the last two. Okay, and I'm looking now for greatest common factors again. So I'm looking 2n squared plus 6n. The biggest thing those can be divided by, they can both be divided by 2. And the n squared and n, they both have an n, so I can pull that out. And then I'm saying, well, what's left? 2n times n gets me back to 2n squared. Okay, 6 divided by 2, that would be 3. And then I already have the n, so there's that one. Okay. We're going to actually use the sign that's in the middle here, so we're going to keep that negative. And then I'm going to say, okay, 1 and 3, the biggest common factor is 1. And then I see, okay, how do I multiply back to that? So negative 1 times n gets me to negative n. Negative 1 times positive 3 gets me back to negative 3, right? Negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. That's another way to think of it. Okay, at this point, you see that, hey, both of my terms are multiplied by n plus 3. That's my common factor, so I do n plus 3. And then the pieces that are left create the other factor, 2n minus 1, and we should be done. Okay, let's do it again. 5x squared minus 14x plus 8. Okay, first thing I look for is the greatest common factor. 5, 14, and 8. The biggest number those can all be divided by is 1. Okay, so I move on and start solving this. So I'm going to create the product sum, multiply 5 times 8. There's my product. The sum is always that middle term with the sign. Okay, so I need two numbers that multiply to 40, but also add to negative 14. Okay, so I can go through my list. I could bust out Desmos at this point, but I'm going to find out that it's 4 and 10, but since I need a negative sum, it's negative 4, negative 10. Okay, this is going to take the place of negative 14x. All right, so here we go. We're going to expand this. 5x squared minus 4x minus 10x plus 8. You could rewrite it. It could be 5x squared minus 10x minus 4x plus 8. It doesn't matter. We'll get to the same factors. All right, so we group them. First group, look for the greatest common factor, 5x squared minus 4x. 5 and 4, the greatest common factor is 1. You could write that if you wanted to. X squared and x, they both have an x. All right, so 5x squared divided by 1x. 5 divided by 1 is 5. X squared divided by x, x. Negative 4x divided by x. Negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. X divided by x is 1, so that's what that is. Okay, I'm going to use the middle sign, and now I'm going to see, okay, greatest common factor of 10 and 8, what can they both be divided by? The biggest number both can be divided by is 2. They both don't have an x, so that's all for the common factor. And then, okay, 10 divided by negative 2. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is 5x. 8 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 4, right? We see like, hey, my factors, what do they have in common? They have 5x minus 4. And then what's left is x minus 2. That's our factored. All right, 6m squared plus 10m minus 4. First thing you look for, biggest number all three can be divided by, 6, 10, and 4. Ooh, these can all be divided by 2. So I have to take care of that first. So I'm going to pull 2 out and then see what's left to multiply. So I still have 6m squared plus 10m minus 4. So 2 times 3m squared is 6m squared. 2 times 5m is 10m, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Okay, so think about your multiplication. You're just reversing the process. All right, once we're here, this guy's job is just to chill out front the remainder of the time. Don't lose it. Here we go. Inside is where we're going to do our slide and multiply, our product sum. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Our sum is the middle term. So what multiplies to negative 6 but adds to 5? This is negative, so they have to be opposite signs. All right, so it has to be 6 and 1, but that doesn't work because that would give me negative 5. So switch them. Negative 1 times 6, negative 6. Negative 1 plus 6 equals 5. Woohoo! Okay, so these take the place of 5m in the middle. So I'm going to create 3m squared, break apart 5m, so minus m plus 6m minus 2. All right, we're going to look inside our parentheses, okay, that 2, don't lose him out front. Here we go, 3m squared minus m. Okay, they have a 1 in common, and then m squared and m, they share an m. All right, so 3m squared, to get back to that, I have to multiply by 3 m by m, so I get 3m squared. M times negative 1 gets me back to negative 1m, okay? Now I look at the second one, we're going to keep the positive sign. 6m and negative 2 have a 2 as a greatest common factor. Both of them can be divided by 2. They don't both have an m, so that's it. 2 times 3m gets me 6m. 2 times negative 1 equals negative 2. All right, hang with me. That 2 out front just stays outside. It's not doing anything else. They both inside have 3m minus 1. And then what's left is my other factor, m plus 2. That would be our factored form. Let's look at one more. 4k squared minus 14k plus 10. First thing you look for, greatest common factor. What can all three numbers, the biggest number all three can be divided by is 2. So we're going to take care of that first. Pull the 2 out, and what do you still have to multiply? So you still have 4k squared minus 14k plus 10. Well, 2 times 2 gets me 4 times k squared. There's 4k squared. 2 times negative 7 is 14 times k. There's the negative 14k. 2 times positive 5 gets me 10. We're factored. Now we start doing this. Remember that 2 only job is to hang out as the guardian out front. Here we go. Product sum, 2 times 5 is 10. Middle one, negative 7 is our sum. So we need two numbers that multiply to positive 10 but add to negative 7. That means they both have to be negative. So 2 and 5, you can make your list. You can use Desmos, okay? So this is going to replace the negative 7k. All right, here we go. Hang with me. 2k squared. Split apart the middle term. So negative 2k minus 5k plus 5. And you know by now that you could reverse that order. You could have done minus 5k minus 2k and then do that. All right, 2 hangs out front. Stay with me. Look at the first 2. Look at the second 2. 2k squared minus 2k. They both can be divided by 2, and they both have a k. 2k times k gets me back to k squared. 2k minus 1, sorry, 2k times negative 1 gets me negative 2k. All right, we're going to use the negative here. Now look, 5k and 5. They both can be divided by 5. They don't both have a variable, so no variable comes out. What's left? Negative 5 times k gets me back to negative 5k. Negative 5 times negative 1 gets me back to positive 5. All right, guys, look, inside they're both times k minus 1. Greatest common factor stays put. Here we go, k minus 1. And then what's left is my other factor, 2k minus 5. There is how you use the grouping method.